So if you thought that I was only going to get 2 videos out of the James Harden trade, then you don't know me at all. What are the Rockets going to do with Victor Oladipo? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to re-sign him? How much does the actual basketball fit matter in this whole thing? And actually, before I speculate on that, I guess the first thing is, why did the Rockets choose Oladipo over Caris LeVert? Was it just because of his contract? Like, they look at his expiring as more tradable than Caris's 3-year deal? Because I would agree with that one. Maybe they think Oladipo is just a better player and they can get more out of him if they do choose to re-sign him. We'll see if Houston ends up regretting not just getting Caris LeVert, because if you look at the way this move was structured, I feel like they could have just gotten LeVert if they wanted him. Oladipo can be traded, I believe, on March 4th. The deadline is March 25th, I think, so that works. Would also like to establish that if there's a possibility of the Rockets just bottoming out and trading everybody and just stacking up on even more draft picks, their pick this year is top 4 protected. If it finishes outside that, then it's going somewhere else, and it's a little risky because even if you have the worst record in the draft, there's still a very high chance that you could get the 5th pick in the lottery, and if that's the case, then being horrible wasn't really your best move, at least for one season. Unless, of course, the returns on a potential Oladipo and John Wall trade, if possible, were so good that you just had to take them anyway. But call me crazy, even with John Wall looking pretty good to start the year, I think it's still going to be pretty tough to move that contract. If I think about an Oladipo trade idea, because look, he's got a 1-year contract, somebody might give him a whole bunch of money in the offseason, we'll see. The first team I think about is Miami. They were already rumored for Harden, they didn't want to do it. I don't really think they'd want to move Tyler Hero for Oladipo, but they've got Iguodala's contract, Olynyk's contract, Myers Leonard's deal, and they have a bunch of picks that are locked up in protections, but they can get it to like 2 available picks, I believe, if they shuffle around protections to whatever is 2 picks plus salary, basically enough for the Rockets to then trade Oladipo, making it to where they got 10 picks for James Harden in total. Maybe, but they could also view it as if Oladipo is good enough from now until when he can actually be traded, then, maybe they'll just want to hold on to the guy at that point. There's always the potential for a sign and trade in the offseason. We should remember that one as well. As far as other potential trade dudes, could we see Oladipo move for Beal? Well, that would require the Rockets now trading some of the picks that they have acquired for Harden, and I imagine they don't want to move too many of those. But if they wanted Bradley Beal, that'd be their avenue for Bradley Beal. It'd be Oladipo and picks. Now, whether the Wizards would view that as enough if Beal is actually available and all that, I don't know. But that's a possibility. Who else is really on the trade market this season? There's been a little thing about Zach LaVine. I don't think that's real. I think the Bulls are going to hold on to LaVine, and I think they should because I still think he's their best player. Philly's been my make-a-trade team for a couple weeks now. They've got money. They've got picks that they can send Houston. Whether Daryl Morey and them would want to do business, I don't know. And, again, we should say, for Houston's sake, they might just view Oladipo as more valuable than whatever type of offer they could get from somebody right now. But still, the Sixers, they've got some stuff to move. If I can name a couple other teams, there is the Celtics with the trade exception. They also have all their picks moving forward. That could be a thing. The other one would be Denver. If Houston could get Michael Porter Jr. out of a Denver trade, then I'm sure that would be good. They've got the money with Will Barton and Gary Harris. I don't know if it's real unless Denver's willing to go a little overboard with picks or include MPJ. And I should say the same thing with the Celtics as well. They would probably have to put in one more pick than they'd really want to, and Danny Ainge basically never does that. Also, if the Celtics were going to hold on to Oladipo long term, either Kemba or Marcus Smart would have to be out, or else they would just be perpetually over the luxury tax. Anyway, if we think about the basketball fit, can Oladipo fit in with John Wall? Yeah, probably. Oladipo has been a really good shooter. There's maybe a little bit of fear that Oladipo expects to come into Houston and just start lighting the world on fire with a whole bunch of shot attempts, and John Wall, while being a great passer, has never really been content with sort of playing underneath somebody else. He was taking as many shots as Bradley Beal when he should not have been doing that because Beal was averaging the same amount of points but doing it on way better efficiency. But at the same time, Wall is still a great passer, and you can see how that would work, right? some fear with Wall playing off of Oladipo. Yeah, sure, but it's not the worst thing in the world, I feel like. And then, you got Christian Wood to space the floor out, and you got some Oladipo, Christian Wood pick and rolls. And, I mean, just based on Oladipo wanting to be in Houston, we assume, we don't know for a fact, we would hope that he could be better for them than James Harden would have been this season. Also, if he really brings it defensively, then that could be nice. I don't think they're loaded with defenders over there in Houston, but that could be something, I guess. Anyway, we think about Oladipo's contract. Are the Rockets going to be willing to just give him a whole bunch of money and look at him as the real return on top of the million draft picks, I should say, for Harden? It could go that route. They would have so many cracks at the draft that you would hope they could pair up Oladipo and John Wall with some good teammates, throw Christian Wood in there as well. But there will be teams with cap space. There's the Knicks, the Spurs, the Thunder, the Hornets, the Pelicans. Both of those teams have contract decisions to make with Devontae Graham and Lonzo. And of course, if any team is determined enough to get cap space, then they can get it. And a sign and trade, of course, opens up the possibility of anybody making a move for Oladipo. Even then, he would still have to agree to want to go to that team. It's a little tough to tell what their money is moving forward just because the salary cap stuff has not really updated on any websites, I don't believe, just yet. But, for this season, they were in the luxury tax, and I think they managed to actually get a little below it with this move, so that's nice. And I think, for 2022, 23, and beyond, they were underneath the luxury tax, at least projected to be, with Wall and Harden. So if they re-sign Oladipo past the season, he's not going to be making Harden's $43 million. So they probably will be underneath the luxury tax, assuming they don't bring anybody back. That gives them flexibility with all these picks to make moves. Whether they want to make moves, I don't know. So we'll see. There's a chance that Oladipo's moved by the deadline in a couple months, and then the return for Harden ended up being like 10 first-round picks and maybe no significant player to show for it. It could end up being a different player. Maybe it's Oladipo and 8 picks and we just go from there. I don't know, but they've got some decisions to make as far as the actual basketball team. We'll see. I mean, I don't know how good they look in the scheme of the Western Conference. I think they're a respectable product, and that's nice. As far as the Western Conference, if they decide to just, look to try to win and not look to try to bottom out, then it's okay, well, with the teams above them, Grizzlies, they could fall out just because they've had injuries to their 2 top guys. The Thunder could fall out just because, come on. The Spurs could fall out. The Kings could fall out, although my guy Halliburton might single-handedly lead them to the postseason. That's only a little bit of a joke. But even so, the Rockets sit at number 14, having to get to number 10. They'd have to leapfrog a bunch of teams. It's kind of tough to see them really doing that. So I guess my pick is no, they're not a playoff team in the West.